Chapter 9. We're Going to the Fair. Thursday, June 4th, 1998. Gator pulls his truck into a parking place, which from a distance seems far too small. With a surprising amount of room to spare on either side, the Rigsby family exits the vehicle. Excited? Gator asks his youngest. Absolutely, this is my first big competition of any kind, Rusty shouts happily. Don't get too worked up. You're just going to be that much more broken up when you lose. Mitch grins, to which his father shoots him a look that causes his spine to melt. You'll do just fine, Gator says, rustling his youngest son's hair. Gator leads his clan to the ticket booth and pulls out a $50 bill. 5 adults, Gator says, handing the money to the high school-aged girl. The girl, her badge reading Michelle, hands Gator back a 20 and a 5. The Rigsbys put the re-entry bands on their left wrists and head into the fairgrounds, but are forced to stop, Mitch staying back to flirt with Michelle, the ticket girl. Come on, Casa-No-Brain, Gator says. This is a family outing. Mitch tosses the girl a final charm-filled smile before returning to his parents and brothers. Sign-ups for the tournament are by the main stage where the girls are clogging, Gator says, pointing to a stage where a bunch of preteen girls are dancing to a Brooks and Dunn song. Mitch and Rusty walk over to the stage where they find Jake and his mother already standing. Surprised you didn't chicken out, Mitch taunts. And miss my chance to embarrass you? No way, Jake grins. After the sign-ups, the group split to reconvene in 2 hours for the beginning of the tournament. Rusty, Jake, and Derek meet up with several of their friends from town. Chris, Lee, and Red Hawk, along with Kaylee and Gavin Madison. Hey, Mitch, Kaylee says, batting her eyes at the older teen. Mitch pretends he doesn't hear her, going over to hang out with his own friends from school. Mitch walks away from the family and stands with a group of his classmates. Among them are Laney, Jewel, Brad, and Todd Gayson. 3 others are also with them that Jake recognizes. The first is another bulky lineman by the name of Vaughn Jackson. The other boy is the football team's kicker, Fabian Parker. Both Fabian and Vaughn are part of the new junior class, and classmates of Jake, Laney, and Jewel. The third is a thin, red-haired girl from the upcoming senior class, along with Mitch and Brad, named Aisha Gansey. Aisha hangs on Fabian's arm as he eats a baked pretzel, holding it with a napkin. As Mitch walks over, Brad slips a small brown bottle out of his pocket and hands it to him discreetly. Jewel moves over to Mitch and he puts one arm around her waist before leaning in and kissing her on the lips for a few seconds. Brad notices Jake is looking in their direction and moves one finger across his throat, indicating that Jake is a dead man. Hey, Mitch, Brad mocks with an elevated pitch, making fun of Kaylee and her infatuation with the older teen. Shut up, Mitch groans, rolling his eyes. No, man, it's cool, Brad laughs. I understand. She's totally bonable. Be careful, Aisha says. The look she's giving you now is going to lead to a broken heart. Like I care, Mitch shrugs. I love 'em and leave 'em. Brad slaps him on the back, laughing. That's the way, brother. You guys want to go heckle the carnies? Vaughn asks. The teens leave, going off to explore the fairgrounds on their own. Kaylee takes her leave of the group as well. I'll see you guys around. I have a few entries in the art exhibit I need to go check on. I'm dying for a lemonade, Jake says after Kaylee leaves. Have you seen any vendors yet? Yeah, there's one selling buffalo burgers and lemonade down around the FFA stables, Chris says. Right on. We can have a look at the livestock while we're at it. Red Hawk rolls his eyes. Yes, because I really wanted to come over here to look at cows and pigs. They're such rare animals that I never see them around anywhere. Oh, come on. You know you can't wait to pet the bunnies, Lee says, using a cutesy voice. Alright, the bunnies are pretty damned adorable, Red Hawk sighs. They walk over to the vendor where Jake gets some lemonade before they pass through the animal stables. The smell is strong if one is not used to it. As citizens of rural Indiana, all of the teens are familiar with the smells of farm animals, and it does not bother them in the least. Red Hawk stops to talk to an overly friendly hog. The pig grunts loudly, hoping his visitors have brought along something good to eat. He looks like your last girlfriend, Lee laughs. Nah, he's cuter, Red Hawk replies, stroking the animal's forehead. Gavin, quit staring at his balls, Chris says, laughing. I wasn't. Gavin growls, folding his arms in irritation. He's annoyed that even his friends make him the constant butt of their jokes. Damn, they're like 2 cannonballs in a Ziploc bag, Derek says. How can he walk with those things? With his head held high, Jake replies, laughing. Do they have a best in show for testicles? Derek asks. If not, we need to bring it to the judge's attention, Chris laughs. Kaylee should have done her art submission on hog nuts, Derek says. Some glitter, maybe a rainbow. I could see a painting of these hanging up in the State Art Museum. Okay, I'd say we've beat this dead horse enough, Jake says, ushering the group along. Ironically, they next encounter horses, and predictably, Chris immediately makes a joke about horsecocks. Give him those hog balls, and he is on the Mount Rushmore of animal genitalia, Lee says, as one of the stallions unsheathes a tool as long as any of the teens' arms. Seriously, are we done with the animal junk watching? Rusty asks, having seen enough farm penis for a lifetime. The goat over there has a huge snatch, Redhawk giggles, pointing across the stable. Derek, Lee, and Chris run over with him to make more jokes. We need to be getting ready for the tournament soon, Jake says, petting a horse on its nose. It's time to go, Chris says, running past them in a hurry. What happened now? Jake asks, fearing the answer. Lee dared Redhawk to put his thumb up a goat's ass. Jake shakes his head, speechless. He and Rusty leave the stables to go stretch out. Several minutes later, they see fair security escorting Redhawk out to the parking lot. I'll be back after a while, the teen shouts. You're banned for the rest of the weekend, you pervert, one of the guards says with disgust. The fair's in an open field with no fences. You rent-a-cops can't keep me out. Behind the stables, Mitch and his friends hide out and sip on a bottle of whiskey that Brad's father gave him before he left the house. The teens think it's so cool that Brad's parents don't make him follow the same rules that theirs do. Is your little brother going to go out for the JV team next season? Brad asks Mitch, passing him the bottle. I don't know, probably. He ain't bad. Plus the kid's really fast and strong. If you want to be successful, you got to get him to stop hanging out with those losers like Jake Stewart, Gavin Martin, and all those other dorks. Yeah, I've warned him about that before, but he didn't want to listen. He said that I was a wannabe for not honoring real friendships. Being friends with those losers is just going to make him toxic at the school. No one who matters will want to have anything to do with him with geek stink all over him. I know, but I can't force him to drop their dead weight. You need to do something, or you're going to have 2 brothers wearing lingerie by the end of the next year, Brad threatens. Mitch tenses, contemplating what would happen were he to break the bottle of whiskey over Brad's head. No one ever dares threaten his brothers and think that he'd be okay with it. I need to be getting ready for the tournament myself, Mitch says, taking a swig from the bottle and passing it to Vaughn. You better win, Brad says. You're representing our school and our team out there. Mitch nods, removing himself from the group and making his way over to the stage so that he can hear any announcements. Chris and the others, minus Redhawk, meet back up with Jake and Rusty as they are stretching out near the stage. So you guys are really going to fight today? That is so cool, Chris says. Yeah, and Mitch too, Rusty replies. I hope his smug ass gets stomped. He's so damn cocky, Gavin says. He actually gave me a swirly last year. I hate that asshole, Lee adds. He'll probably do well. He is pretty muscular, Kaylee says. Okay, schoolgirl crushes aside, I'd say that we all agree Jake or Rusty are our preferred victors, Chris says. Just don't get too excited. There are going to be a lot of skilled martial artists participating. We'll only be able to do our best, Jake says. Jake eyes his cousin carefully. Deep down, he knows that he loves his relative, but he doesn't trust him. Mitch has shown too many times that he's willing to do almost anything to fit in and go along with the crowd. If they were to make one of those black and white documentaries on peer pressure, Mitch would be one of their overly exaggerated examples. He isn't here because he wants to win, though I'm sure that he would like that. No, he's only participating because he hopes he gets the chance to make me look like an idiot in front of his friends. I embarrassed his friends, and now he wants to get even with me publicly. You look nervous, Rusty says, nudging Jake and causing him to jump a little. Maybe a little. You? Jake replies. I'm absolutely terrified. Gavin changes the subject. His thoughts usually bounce around in his brain like free-roaming electrons. Have you guys been to the 4-H building? They have some pretty cool stuff in there. We don't want to see your How I Screwed a Farm Animal diorama. Chris laughs. I'm serious. There are a couple of really cool science projects in there. A kid from B South made a dead frog generate enough electricity to power a Nintendo 64. I call bullshit, Chris interrupts. That I gotta see. Jake smiles, leading the group of teens into the 4-H pavilion in between a cotton candy stand and a haunted house. Inside the buildings are dioramas, displays, and scientific experiments performed by anywhere from 5th to 12th graders from local schools. They reach the dead frog display, but are disappointed to find only pictures and a 20-page plus paper detailing the 11th graders' experiment. No actual dead frog hooked up to a Nintendo 64 is anywhere in sight. How lame, Lee says with a sigh. Well, coming from who told us about it, it should have been expected, Chris laughs. Jake has a sudden, strange feeling in the pit of his stomach. A cold ache, incomparable to anything he's ever felt before in his life. Jake glances to his right to see a classmate of his, a dark-haired girl named Daniela Livingston, speaking with 2 other boys their age that he doesn't recognize. Danny, standing about 5'4", emits an air of fierceness that is unlike her small frame. Her hair is black and messy, with several green streaks dyed into it. All 3 of them are dressed in black, body-fitting jeans and wearing heavy dark eye makeup. All of the black makes Danny's bright blue eyes stand out. She has a series of chains dangling around her waist in place of a belt, and wears a black striped tank top shirt revealing the top trim of her red swimsuit-like bra and modest breasts. Danny glances towards Jake, and it seems as if she's looking right through him. Jake shudders, an icy chill running through his body. What was that? I feel like I was just lying in a bathtub full of ice cubes, Jake wonders, still shivering. Danny tells one of the boys, named Marcus Holt, to go sign up for the martial arts tournament. Why do I gotta sign up? Everyone knows that you and Glaus are the top students. Because winning isn't our intention. If I entered the tournament, then our readings would all be skewed by my energy. You're the only one just strong enough to hold their own and not be obliterated, but weak enough not to be a threat to the real competitors that we're scouting out. Since they said that you're the perfect fit for this duty, Danny says, her voice flat and emotionless. Marcus continues grumbling as he walks out of the building towards the sign-up table. Has anyone happened to find the elephant ears? Rusty asks, smacking his lips together. You're hopeless, Jake sighs. Come on, you know I can't fight on an empty tank. You're already full of something, that's for sure. Okay, but when you run out of steam on stage in the middle of your match, don't look to me for any pity. I'll be bouncing around with all that extra delicious cinnamon and sugar. And deep-fried grease? You'll be lucky if you don't puke the first time you throw a punch. Rusty just shakes his head, still smiling, as the argument goes nowhere. Has anyone seen a dunking booth around? There's no way I could ever enter the martial arts tournament, so I'd rather let out my aggression on a smart-mouthed carny who can't retaliate, Redhawk asks with a smile, having rejoined the group like he promised. I think I saw Gavin's mom taking a bath in one a few minutes ago, Chris laughs. Shut up. At least my mom didn't have a train run on her in college, Gavin snaps back. Chris's mom having been a basketball cheerleader in college. Cool. If I was conceived in a basketball jizz gumbo, then my real dad is probably some big NBA star, Chris proves that it is impossible to get underneath his skin. Jake laughs, immensely enjoying the time he gets to spend with his friends. With his father and mother working almost constantly and no siblings, he regards his friends as an extension of his family and cares about them greatly. We need to start loosening up, Jake says to Rusty. I'd hate to lose because I pulled a muscle like some kind of feeble old man. Rusty nods, and the 2 cousins lead their group out of the 4-H pavilion into a small clearing beside a waste receptacle in a children's bounce house. Jake does some deep knee bends, stretching side to side and putting his weight on each leg to loosen up. Nervous? Rusty asks, putting his arms over his head and locking his fingers before pulling on each arm until he feels a burning sensation in his armpits. Of course I am. There's always that chance that we get beat up so badly out there that we either cry or lose control of our bowels. I, for one, do not like the possibility of those happening on stage in front of so many people. Dang, Rusty whispers, pausing in his stretches. I hadn't even thought about that. Now I'm even more nervous. Jake laughs, standing up straight and touching his palms to the grass without bending his knees several times. "Didn't mean to scare you. Just relax. We'll do our best. We can't do any better than that." Lieutenant Rollins lays out the crime scene photos of each of the victims of the combustion killings across the table. All are burned so badly that they no longer even resemble the humans they once were. In years of murder investigations, he's never seen anything quite like this case. The damage done to these bodies is consistent with the kinds of burns one would find in incinerators or in severe factory-related accidents. The tip lines are silent, and nothing has come from the security video footage, which has largely been destroyed at each location. He's stumped. Every time he tries to come at the case with fresh eyes, he's no closer to an answer than before. All we have are victims. No suspects, and no witnesses. We have no motives and no weapons. We can't even figure out what damned accelerant is being used to create these fires. Rollins thinks with frustration. He wishes there were a better detective to push the case off onto, but no one has a better chance of solving it than he. 12 years with IMPD, and he has a clearance rate of 38% higher than any of his fellows. He is regarded as one of the entire state's top detectives. No connections between the latest victim and any of the priors, Detective Osteen, one of Rollins' friends and subordinates, says, sticking his head into the office. They don't share any work history or acquaintances. "Did you check their dating histories?" Osteen nods. "Yeah, they weren't into the same type of girls. There's about a 20-year gap between the closest female companions of the victims. Check the acquaintances of the female companions and their acquaintances, and so on and so on. It may be a long-shot game of 6 degrees of separation, but we really don't have anything better to go off of right now." Osteen sighs loudly, knowing he'll have to clear off anything important from his schedule. "I'll have to go get Morris to help me with this." Rollins nods. "We'll need to explore every avenue to try and get any leads possible. I've requested copies of all the victims' junior high and high school yearbooks. There must be a common link between these people. And what if there isn't? What if the killings really are just at random? I refuse to believe these murders that are this brutal have no motivation. There must be a connection that we haven't seen yet." Should we dismiss any possibilities? Of course not. I'm not saying that. I don't want to conduct this investigation with any blinders on. If there is a lead buried in these men's pasts, we will find it. Osteen picks up the newspaper and shakes his head. "Why couldn't we have been part of this?" the detective asks, pointing to the lead story of the serial killer Teddy Pinkston's arrest. "Open and shut. They didn't have to deal with the kind of phantom we're after." Rollins doesn't have an answer. His own morale suffering from the lack of leads. The rest of the station is buzzing with celebration after arresting Pinkston. But Rollins is no closer to his own suspect than when he began. "You'd think the chief were just proposed to by Kathy Ireland, how giddy he is," Osteen says, looking out the office window at the other officers. "How tough is it to catch a guy when his own girlfriend calls the tip line and hands him over with fucking gift wrap and a red ribbon?" "Things will start coming together," Rollins says, trying to reassure himself as much as Osteen. Osteen is not as optimistic. "We can only hope that it won't take another murder for us to get a lead on this bastard." Rollins nods. "I fear that's exactly what will end up happening. Real life doesn't have happy endings all the time. Real life gives you shit, and when you can't take any more, it shits on you again."